Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Apostate, and on today's live stream, we are taking calls from ex-Muslim callers and Muslim female callers, if available, because I've tried to do this live stream before, and we've had some success with it, but unfortunately, whenever we try to platform women specifically, we get a lot of negative attention from people who don't want women's voices to be heard. So I'll try to have at least one live stream a month where it's specifically for female callers. And today we're talking about ex-Muslim callers. And again, I am open to taking Muslim callers if the time allows for it as well. And right now, the queue is mostly empty. I've got one caller possibly lined up, but otherwise, if you'd like to join, the link is pinned to the live chat. So please click that link and go through the steps, and you'll join very soon. So since we've got a caller ready, Erika, I'll add you to the stream now. Hey, Erika, you are muted, by the way. Can you hear me? Hey.
Hello? Am I live right now?
Yeah, we are live right now. How's it going?
Okay. Okay, it's going okay. I am home alone today, so I can talk about some things that I wouldn't talk with my sister around because she knows English and she would understand. And it just happens to be connected to her because I've been thinking about how, having a younger sibling in a Muslim family really puts in perspective the way Islam affects kids, especially little girls, because it affected me the same way growing up. But when it's happening to you, you might, not notice it as much as when it's happening to someone else in front of your eyes, especially someone you love. And it's sometimes really difficult to deal with it, if I'm being honest, because I see her giving up some of her biggest dreams because they're not halal, they're not approved. And for example, like she really wanted to have a dog and to be like an artist, but you can't draw people in Islam and you can have dogs, and she gave up on her biggest hobby because of that. And I see her like saying that, she's happy, that she wants to be a Muslim, that it's her choice. But I sometimes wonder if she just thinks that way because she feels like that's the only choice she has. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though I always try to think that, well, she has me, so I can be like an example for her, like, because she knows, like, my whole family knows about me. And I often thought that maybe I could be an example for her in that way. But not recently, but she told me once that she doesn't want to have a bad relationship with our parents the way I do. And that kind of really hurt me because she basically told me to my face, I don't want to be like you. And it affected me in a way because, I feel like every older sibling secretly wishes that their younger sibling would see them as a good example. But she sees me as a bad example, and I'm kind of scared how this whole thing might affect our relationship because we're very close, but I'm kind of scared that it will eventually make us drift away from each other. If that makes sense. I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
No, you are. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Your sister pretty much told you that she doesn't want to be like you, or she doesn't want the kind of relationship you have with your family.
Yeah, she did say that she doesn't want to be like me as well. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, it's not the worst thing I've been through, but it's still kind of hard because I know it all comes from Islam at the end of the day. And I don't know, maybe someone has some advice on on how to deal with this, because I know we're not supposed to have like the same mentality that we had as Muslims, that we have to save people to like, because I recently saw a post on Instagram that some ex-religious people still have the same mentality that they have to save people, but instead of saving people by converting them to religion, we're now trying to save people by converting them out, like deconverting them.
Mm-hmm.
And I read it and I was like, oh, I relate to that because I feel like that with my sister. I feel some kind of responsibility to, kind of drag her out of this because I feel like she might get herself in a dangerous situation if she keeps thinking like that. And sometimes I feel like, oh no, I should drag her out before it's too late. But then like, well, it's I can't force her, and I can't really convince her anymore either, since she pretty much told me she doesn't want to be like me. And I guess I've been just thinking about how to deal with that.
I'm sure a lot of people here can relate to what you're saying, and I mean, myself included to some extent. It's a good reminder that you said we shouldn't go out and do basically da'wah, but the other way around, where you're looking for someone to bring out of their religion and just try either through picking a fight with them or to try to show them everything that's wrong with their belief. I think to some extent that is what I do, but it's not in people's faces. Like, I don't go to someone and I say, hey, let's talk about your religion. I let them come to me, or if they want to watch my content, they're free to do so. But in my personal life and off the internet, and even on the internet, I don't go to spaces where believers are and I say, hey, let's talk about why your belief is wrong and let's get you out of it. Because it's not going to help them, even if you are right in your assessment that they might see some kind of harm, or they are at the moment. That way of talking to them about it will not help. So unless you see something that absolutely needs immediate intervention, which it doesn't sound like it's the case with your sister, it's unfortunate that yes, she's missing out on things in life, and yes, she thinks a certain way about herself because of religion, but unfortunately it doesn't it's not as urgent as someone who's in immediate danger because of it, right? But that's hard for us to do. I hear you there. And I've seen a lot of situations where either it's because of something that, like your sister said, that she explicitly doesn't want to turn out to be like you in your family, or just implicitly people think that way, and it severs or affects ties within families. Because, like, I personally, for example, I could tell you that I lost touch with a lot of people in my family because, first of all, I didn't want to tell them who I really am, and I didn't want to pretend to be someone I'm not most of the time that we're talking. And secondly, because even if they accepted me for that, then that causes friction between them and other family members, and I don't want to put them in that position. So it's very alienating. I hear you there. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything constructive to add to it, but I can tell you that I relate a lot.
No, it's okay. I know that it's something that is difficult to give advice on because every family is different and every relationship between siblings is different, right? And I can't exactly go into details about my family for obvious reasons. So yeah, I understand that it's practically impossible to give good advice without that context. And I can't give that context on stream. But yeah, it's like in general, I feel like it's very different with like in the context of in context of personal relationships, because like I also talk about the things I dislike in religion, right? I have my own like account where I talk about this, but when I just talk like this about this on my account, it's very different because if people don't like it, they can just block my account or something. I don't feel like I'm forcing people to listen to me. While with my sister, the question is like, where is the line? Where am I becoming just another person who is forcing her into something? You know what I mean? And sometimes
I
that
do.
line, sometimes that line is very difficult. Yeah, sorry. I think there is still a little bit of delay, just a few seconds. But yeah, I think this line is especially difficult to draw with someone you feel responsible for, because on one side you want to kind of guide them to the path that you believe would be better for them, but on the other side you don't want to be like imposing and just like I said. So in the concept of an older sibling, it's kind of difficult. And I think that I've been thinking about how other people who are like the only ex-religious person in the family with younger siblings who are religious and like being affected by it constantly, and who see the negative consequences of that. I've been thinking like I'm probably not the only one who's stuck in this situation. So I decided to just call in and talk about it in case someone might relate and also feel like we're not alone in this. And it's difficult, but I guess the best we can do is try to provide some kind of stable support. Like I always try to let my sister know that even if her parents like don't accept her anymore, I will always accept her. I will always be there for her. I will always love her, because if I felt like that when I was a kid, I feel like that would save me a lot of emotional turmoil. So at the very least, I can try to make sure that she never goes through what I had to go through emotionally, because she will never have to feel like she won't have a family, because she will always have me at the very least, no matter what.
It's very kind of you to care about her that way. Oh, sorry. I think I'm muted on the live stream. I was saying that is very kind of you to care about her that way.
You were not muted. You were not muted. I heard you. On
to
the live
you,
stream, yes. In
yeah,
a
on
call,
the live stream
yeah.
I might have been. Yeah, I'm having some technical difficulties today with the live stream, but it's all good. Yeah, and the comments are in support. They're telling you that that's exactly the way to go. I'm sure everyone can relate to that situation. I hope that it works out, that you don't like you've kind of made your position known to your sibling, and if she needs to reach out to you at some point, she knows to do so. But in the time being, you're not really getting in the way of her practicing her religion.
Yeah, and she knows basically everything about me. Like she knows stuff that my parents don't know, and I know the same. Like we know stuff about each other that no one else knows, and we trust each other not to rat each other out to the wrong people who could, to our parents, for example. And I really cherish that. I don't wanna ruin that special relationship we have with her. So yeah, I'm just gonna. I guess I'm just gonna continue trying to do what we already do and trying to be better at it, maybe, because sometimes I do have, I did have moments that I acted in ways I'm not proud of, but I'm trying to fix that.
Well, self-awareness is good, so I think it sounds like you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Hmm.
I think on this positive note, I can.
Yeah. It's a good note to end on, and thank you for being the first caller today. I appreciate your help behind the scenes, and the fact that you wanted to join as a caller as well. And I hope
I'll
we get
go
to hear
back
from you
to
again.
modding and screening. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, well, I will talk to you later. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, see you.
Bye-bye. All right. Thank you again to the caller. It looks like we do have another caller lined up, and if you'd like to join, the link is pinned to the live chat, so please do join. I will take Saf if she's ready. Just giving you a heads up, I'm going to add you to the live stream in a few seconds. In the meantime, sorry folks, I'm having a few minor technical difficulties with the live stream, so if something looks out of place, that's why. But I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat as well. And if you would like to help me out, please do write the timestamp for each caller after the live stream is over, so that way I can segment it for future viewers to know which caller is at which point. So, Saf, I hope you're ready because I'm adding you to the call now. Hey, can you hear me? Are you there?
Yes, I can hear.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Sorry, the name on screen is not correct, but I'm a little distracted. Yeah, so welcome to the call. Tell me a little bit about yourself and why you'd like to join today.
Hi. That's my nickname. I've actually spoken to you before, like 2 years ago.
Okay. Can you remind me of what we spoke about?
It was it was one of your live streams. It was supposed to be for Muslim women, and then none of them joined. So you're like, oh, okay, we'll take ex-Muslim women, and I was like, okay, whatever, I'll join. And then I joined, and I think we talked about like my ability to be able to think critically about things because I was raised Muslim and I'm so accustomed to just being taught just believe everything that people tell you.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember that live stream and I vaguely remember our conversation. I'm glad we got to talk again now. I can't believe it's been a couple of years. Yeah, welcome back to the show. So, what would you like to talk about today?
Today, I was actually just talking to a friend of mine, an ex-Muslim man, who had said he was like, man, life would have like he was dealing with some problems with his family, and he was like, my life would have been so much easier if I just stayed Muslim. And I was like, why didn't you? Because if from my perspective, it's like, well, that's easier for you, no? And I mean, obviously, okay, easier with like quotations around it. Um, but then I sat down and started thinking, there's like a lot more ex-Muslim women that I know versus ex-Muslim men because the system is it's set up for men.
Interesting. I mean, obviously, from my perspective, it would be different because Muslim women or ex-Muslim women aren't inclined to tell other Arab or seemingly possibly Muslim guys whether or not they're, following their religion. So I don't hear as much about it, but you being a woman, I'm sure you come across them much more often than I would. But I hear where you're coming from. Like it's easier to remain a Muslim man than to remain a Muslim woman. So many don't see an issue with it
And it
because it
got me
serves
thinking
them.
like I'm more inclined to question it because I get the worst end of the deal.
Hmm. Right. Like
I
that's
actually
it's like when people see that, for example, people with good relationships with their families are less likely to leave religion, and they correlate it with this idea that it must be if you have a bad relationship with your family, then you're going to leave religion, not because the religion is not true, but it's actually the other way around. If things are smooth sailing, you don't want to rock the boat, and you might not even notice the issues with religion. So I guess that's why a lot of men are more inclined to continue practicing it.
Oh yes. Since then I've told a lot of my family that I don't believe anymore. Um and most of them because I live in a secular country, it's been like, yeah, whatever. Um my
Mm.
brother though is really interesting how he is still Muslim, but he will also actively make fun of the religion. Like he will pray 5 times a day. He's at Jummah every Friday. His girlfriend is also Muslim. And then on top of that, he'll be like, well, yeah, this is stupid. I don't believe in that part. And it's such a weird relationship that he has with it that I can't understand.
How much conversation have you had about it?
Oh, quite a bit.
Okay. And have you asked him straight up, what about this cognitive dissonance? Like, how come?
At the end of the day, he's boiled it down to it's way easier for him to just go with this. He was born into it, it's his culture and his family. It's the easy way out, basically. And it makes
Okay.
me feel jealous sometimes, actually, because he can just do that and it doesn't deeply affect him.
Right. How do you feel about that? I mean, aside from the jealousy, Tell me more about how you feel about him remaining a Muslim who's critical of the religion.
A lot of my fiance actually says uh, he's not really Muslim. He'll drop it soon. Give him a year.
I think that's funny because on the other side of the aisle, I guess, you have Muslims saying he's not really a disbeliever. Just give him some time. It's a phase. He'll be back. So
Yeah.
I mean, if he says he's a Muslim, then he's a Muslim. It's not up to us to decide it. But
Exactly.
I get what your fiance means about that.
The other day,
Yeah.
I gave him a piece of candy, and we found out afterwards it had gelatin in it, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And he was like, "Well, I didn't know, so it's fine." And then he ate another piece.
I mean, the second one's on him, and he's fine with that.
Exactly.
Yeah. A lot of people get confused by this. Her brother's a Muslim with a girlfriend, one commenter says. Yeah, it's not that uncommon. I mean, I don't know about your brother's situation, but girlfriend means different things in different cultures. So
Oh
there
yeah.
are Muslims who like would just only hold hands, and that would count as a relationship, and that's his girlfriend, boyfriend. And there are some who go even further and do the clearly haram things, and they justify it as, well, someday I'm going to marry them, so it's going to be fine. So people are very surprised by that. But what were you going to say about it?
I actually wouldn't know because he's my brother, so I'm not really I don't really question him about that stuff.
Of
Um,
course, yeah.
I did bring it up once though. I was like, how does that work out?" And he was like, "Allah knows my intentions." So I was like, "Okay, do your thing."
Yeah, I mean, I come across believers who are in that kind of, I don't even want to call it an in-between stage because it's not necessarily a sign that someday he's not going to be a believer anymore, but this not really on solid foundation of practice position. And on one hand, I'm a bit jealous that they're able to get the best of both worlds somehow, because I couldn't allow that to myself. Like, it felt inconsistent. Could you imagine being a Muslim who does haram things and thinks, well, it's fine, it's all going to work out? Like, were you that kind of believer?
It used to eat me up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I learned that I do a lot of baking. There's this recipe for icing that calls for gelatin, and I couldn't find any beef gelatin in the store, and I was like, "Ugh, what do I do now?" I have an ultimatum. Obviously, I
Did
ended up making a
you?
different thing, and the case
Okay.
tasted disgusting. That's like the smallest example. There were so many better things I could have thought of.
I mean, for those not in the know, Muslims can't consume any pork products, including gelatin, if it could have been derived from pork. Because sometimes it's not even clear. It's whatever animals they use in their mix. But if it's not
Mhm.
clearly said that it's halal, then a lot of Muslims want to avoid that. Um, but it's a good thing you didn't use it anyway, because even though it's not going to harm them one bit in the physical sense, it's still not ethical to slip someone
Yeah,
food that they didn't want.
exactly.
Yeah. Um,
Also,
but
also
it is
things
very
like
silly. Yeah. Go ahead.
overwhelmingly silly. Like I'd be like, "Oh no, I accidentally entered the room with the wrong foot. What have I done?"
Yeah, it's borderline OCD, honestly, and that's the weird part about it. You may not have OCD, and then I don't know if this makes you develop some kind of religious OCD or superstition, or if it awakens some that was in you and amplifies it. But a lot of people struggle with this even after they leave the faith. That there are certain things, if they don't do exactly the way that Islam says they should do, or Muhammad allegedly did, then they're going to be in trouble. Um, and I feel that sometimes. Like, you know how, yeah, if I were to pick up something and eat it with my left hand, there's this like heavy weight on my left hand. And when you think about it, it's just that I'm not ambidextrous. So, of course, it's going to
Mhm.
feel weird eating something with my left hand. But
Yeah.
in my mind, it translates to, well, that's the haram feeling or whatever.
And that guilt, it gets you in every aspect of your life. Like, I am happily with a person that, like, the greatest, okay, exaggeration here, greatest person I ever met. And it wasn't always like that, of course. Like, I remember a good like year and a half into our relationship, I had started really connecting with my culture and my family, and I was like, wow, it's like time for them to be looking for like matches for me, like men in my community. And I remember sitting there like, this is so hard to do, to go like, my cousins are getting married and this is their beautiful family wedding and mine is not going to look like this because it's not going to be a Muslim wedding. I know a lot of my family is not going to want to come. It's hard to do what's right for you, and then on top of that you have this overwhelming guilt that you're doing something wrong.
Well, how do you feel about that now that you've been with your partner for a while?
Well, I did get over it. I joined. There was this what's it called? It's like Alcohol Anonymous, but for ex-Muslims. Oh, hold on a moment.
Ex-Muslims Anonymous or something?
Yes, pretty much. It was like a group therapy kind of thing where we spoke about it, and they were like, the older you get and the more independent you are, and once you move out of your house, the easier it is to fathom a society, like a world where you don't have all of this guilt and expectation on your shoulders. But that being said, you can't just run from your problems. Like, I haven't moved out yet, but the day that I do, I'm still gonna feel all of this guilt. Like, it takes a lot of personal work.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's going to be a barrier that stops you or delays you from moving out someday?
It almost did. There was almost a time where I was like, there's no need for me to move out when I finish my schooling. Why would I? Well, now I know, obvious reasons. And it almost ended my relationship.
Wow. So what made you decide not to go that way?
Every time I had like my mom would be like, hey, there's this guy in your family that we want you to meet. And I'm like, okay, whatever, what a family event. And I would talk to him and it would just be like so bad. Like, just women just, one guy had started talking about like red pill stuff and like just like
this was the first time that you met him?
Yes, this is the first time I met him. Just no social skills. Like, they've never spoken to a woman in their whole life. And they probably haven't.
Yeah. I can't imagine. I mean, that's basically not a marriage proposal, but a setup to see if he will propose to you, right? The guy that you don't know. And he starts talking about red pill stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, can you give examples for those who don't know what red pill is?
I don't know if I fully know what red pill stuff is, but he had seen something on my Instagram about there were these like hecklers outside of a bus station talking about the Bible, and I was complaining about it on my Instagram story, and he was like, oh, well, I see you're more like liberal. Well, I'm more like conservative, like red pill.
He just volunteered that information. I mean, I'm glad that he was open about it and pretty, forward about it, that it didn't come up later. But yeah. It's funny how that's one thing that I'll tell you, when I was growing up, interaction with women or females my age was very, very limited by design.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they do it that way because they think that if there's mingling, then there's going to be haram, and then there's going to be all sorts of things that they don't want. So they push you to the other edge, to the point that people overthink these things and they obsess over any minor interaction with a female. And then they start to have their own ideas about how it should go, and not to use the term female, in a derogatory way. I mean girl or woman or whatever, because I know that they use that term, the red pill people, they use it in a condescending way. But yeah, it's so my ideas about women and what they want and how they are like came from few interactions in real life, and a lot from what's in the media, including movies, including plays, including whatever, you hear about through your friends. So most of my ideas about women came not from women, but sometimes even from women actresses, maybe on a show or something. But they're all sexist ideas enforced by men and perpetuated by men. So by the time that I started meeting women, I could have easily been that kind of red-pilled person because all the evidence in my life has pointed to these beliefs.
I really thought about what my life would have been like because I'm gifted in the way that I'm really good at cooking and cleaning. And so I'd say like, well, I could have been a housewife, but not for you. I love saying that. It's like, well, you're not good enough. It makes them so upset. I am so sorry. Something came up. I do have to dip, but thank you so much for this opportunity. And this is a really great conversation. It was lovely talking to you again.
Yeah, likewise. And hope we get to talk to you some other time once more.
Yes, I'll stay on the channel.
All right. Well,
Bye.
Enjoy the rest of the live stream. Bye-bye.
You too.
All right. Thanks again to the caller. If you would like to join, the link is still pinned to the live chat. And we have maybe one other caller queued. But other than that, we still got room. So if you'd like to join, now is the time. In the meantime, my cat has been distracting me. Come here. At least show your face on camera if you're going to do that all the time. He's too shy today. There's a comment I keep seeing about the possibility of God. I don't know. I'll get to that comment later if there's time. For the time being, I'm taking the next caller, Sid. If you'd like to join, again, link is pinned to the live chat. So Sid, I hope you are ready. I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey Sid, can you hear me? Made you decide not to go that way. You are...
Every time I had like my mom would be like, hey, there's this guy.
I think there's a major delay or something. Sid, please do turn off your live stream before I can add you to the call. Yeah. I'll wait for Sid to give me the okay before I let her join again. In the meantime, come here. Come here. Come. Make yourself useful. Just kidding, I'm not that mean, but hey, say hello, Pooh. Say hello to everybody. He smashed like all the buttons on the keyboard now, so I gotta see if something broke. We're still live streaming, right? Yeah, I think so. Cool. All right. Still waiting for callers. Sid, let's try again. Hey, can you hear me?
But he had seen something on my Instagram.
Okay, Sid is watching the live stream like with a huge delay, so it's hard to get her to join the call today. Okay, it seems like because I didn't advertise this in a bunch of different spots, I forgot to. Not a lot of people got the notification that today's live stream is going to be for female callers and female ex-Muslim callers. So unfortunately, we don't seem to have a lot of people who would like to join, or at least who are going through the screening process. So we'll give it a few more minutes. If it doesn't work out, then I guess that'll be a short live stream and we'll try again another week. We're streaming every Wednesday, so if it doesn't work out this time, we'll try to make it work next time. Zaid says, Saf and Aladdin should record an audiobook together. They both have perfect radio voices, mashallah, tabarakallah. Well, thank you, and I'm sure the caller appreciates that as well. Well, who knows? I'm looking for people to help with all sorts of projects, so if you would like to volunteer to help me make videos, do let me know in the comments, or join the Discord group and Discord server and let me know there that you'd like to volunteer. Thanks to a lot of members of the community, I'm starting to get a lot more help with my live streams and the rest of my videos, so hopefully that will reflect on the quality very soon. In the meantime, still waiting for callers. Oh, I see a familiar name, so hopefully soon enough we'll get another caller. In the meantime, what should I tell you about? I did bring that Dumb Dad Jokes book. So let me read something from it. Knock, knock. Who's there? Cash. Cash who? I didn't realize you're some kind of nut. Okay, that's bad. That's so bad. Knock, knock. Who's there? Goat. Goat who? Go to the door and check who's knocking. Okay, that one's a bit better. Let's see. Knock, knock. Who's there? Dozen. Dozen who? Doesn't anyone want to let me in? All right, that's enough dad jokes and knock, knock jokes for the day. All right, do we have any callers who are ready to join? Doesn't seem that way. I guess I gotta vent for a couple more minutes. Today's my least creative day, so please do help me out with some comments, because I can't seem to think of anything. Hassan Odwan says, you know what really makes my day? The rotation of the earth. Spoken like a true dad. That was a great dad joke. Ex-skeptic says about one of my jokes, that joke was so bad I'm Muslim again. Well, sorry to see you go. Shady says, your stand-up set needs work, bro. Yeah, it's hard to do a stand-up set when you don't have an audience, like a live audience. Oh, there is a new caller. Okay, great. So, taking that caller now. Hope you are ready, Red, because I'm adding you to the live stream. Hey, Red, can you hear me? Are you there? If you are still muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, Aladdin. I'm not sure if you recognize my voice, but I was on your live beforehand a while back under the name of Nafirman. Do you by any chance remember?
I remember the name, but I don't remember what we spoke about.
Just kind of venting about a lot of stuff. I came from a Pakistani American household. I was born and raised in the United States, and I kind of consider myself like an agnostic Muslim. I had mentioned that on your live. And I remember your live, that episode specifically, there was like a caller towards the end that kind of ruined the entire vibe of the entire call, and it was going off on just a very terrible rant about trigger warning sexual assault and everything. And I'm sorry that like happened on your live. And I was just coming on the chat just to kind of kind of provide you a life update in a way, and just kind of just talking about the things that really bother me in a way.
Of course, yeah. So do you still identify the same way as a agnostic Muslim?
Yes. I think I will always possibly call myself a Muslim. It's kind of just hard to walk away, and I don't have the guts to call myself an ex-Muslim. And if I am whispering, it's because I don't know if I told you, but I do live at home, and I'm not open about my beliefs at all. And I've spoken to a few people, since we've spoken, met a few women who are from like a Muslim background, and they feel the same way as I do, but they still do identify as Muslim. And like they kind of share the same sentiments in regards to how the religious men in our community treat them and how they're viewed in general. And we just kind of share the same beliefs, but like they don't really see the connection to Islam in a way. And I think like it's just relieving to see that there are a lot more women that are aware of this, but they just can't be vocal about it. Like they're aware of like the issues within our community, within our religious beliefs and stuff, but they're not vocal. They don't feel confident about being vocal enough. And I kind of try to like spread the word a little bit about ex-Muslims in a way, just kind of got a little bit more confident, while also being like cautious of my being cautious of making sure I don't expose myself too much, but it's mainly to non-Muslims that have been like, talking about some of the issues in our community, the misogyny, just kind of like the horrific things that like, a lot of people can get away with under Islam. And they see it. A lot of people do see it. They just know that they can't really say anything because they're going to get a lot of backlash.
Well, I just want to say about something you said in the very beginning, that you don't have the guts to call yourself ex-Muslim.
Yeah.
I have to softly disagree with you on that. I mean, I don't think it's about having the guts. The stakes are different for everyone, and I don't think that it's like we shouldn't just commend blindly doing it out of principle and calling yourself ex-Muslim and putting yourself in danger. I think it's important to do what's right for you, and sometimes that's speaking your mind openly, and sometimes it's being strategic about it. So I hope you're not, you don't mean that you don't have the guts, but maybe what you mean to say is the stakes are too high right now.
Yeah, they are. They really are. And I'm thankfully like in a safe country. I'm in the United States, so it makes me feel a little bit better about my situation. But it's thankfully a lot better than what I hear from a lot of callers who do call in. And I just want to say, like, I'm sorry that you even have to like go through these like deep levels of verification to like just to get to have a space for female callers. Because I think like what you do, as I said before, I think I told you this before, that like what you do is very, very important. Holding these spaces, especially for women to speak, especially when we do talk about it anywhere outside of it. We're gonna get backlash regardless, but just having just a day for us to call in, I think that's really special and is very, very important. So I just want to thank you. I really, really appreciate what you do. But I'm sorry that you have to like go through so much shit to like get someone on the call to verify that they're not messing around with you.
Well, I appreciate that. I want to choose to see it a different way, because it's bummed me out for a while that I had to go through so many steps. But then I was happy that a lot of people helped me through this. Like, I'm not doing this by myself anymore. So if it wasn't for that, I would have felt more overwhelmed maybe by now, because no one would have stepped in to change anything, because I would have been using the same system the same way, and I was handling everything all at once. So that's one positive. It's pushing us in the right direction, I guess, because this and another way to look at it is, I'm glad we got as far as we did for as long as we did before this started happening. So we've had, you've called in before. We've had a lot of great live streams in the past, like over 24 or so. So I'm happy that it's only now that we're facing these problems even more intensely, and seems to be working more smoothly now. And I'm happy that you're able to call in. And I sense your frustration with these issues. And is there anyone in your community or your friends who you can talk to about these? You mentioned that you know of some people who have the same issues but can't speak about them openly. Do you find comfort talking to each other? Yeah.
Well, I'm not really as close to them. It's just like people that I met in person. Just kind of like, talking to them, just like, how they feel about their religious beliefs and everything, like how they feel about the religion in general. A lot of them are just afraid to talk. And like, that includes me too. Because when I ask these questions, I'm like I'm trying to be really careful that I phrase it in such a way that like it doesn't trigger anything and they don't like suspect anything. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not really close to a lot of people that I can like vent to, and most of the times I just feel a lot of guilt. I think your last caller, I think her name was Saf something. I remember her username. She was mentioning guilt, like when she like leaves the home and everything, that like she feels a lot of guilt, and I've always had that guilt all my life. Even as an adult, like even like stepping outside of my home, just going out to like just meet friends or something like that. It's just the things I feel guilty for are just so stupid, if that makes sense. I feel guilty for like wearing certain clothes, or like if I'm drinking something that I'm not supposed to be drinking, or eating something that's not halal, or meeting a boy, or like like meeting a guy for a date or something like that. It's just, it is so ridiculous that we have to have so much guilt over something so stupid when you think about it. It's just, so it is stupid in a way, like, you know, having so much guilt over like being afraid of being shown, like, you know, someone seeing you in a dress. And I think I want to just kind of talk about something. Because I didn't really know what to really talk about when I came on your live, but like I've always like rid myself of these joys because I always pretended that, like, I always told myself that I don't enjoy these things. No, like, I don't enjoy these things, and maybe there's a reason for it, like, you know, because it's haram, you know. And I try to tell myself, like, no, you don't really like this, you don't like the way that, you know, you like dress, or like you don't really like to wear this dress because I'm not supposed to be like wearing certain things like that. Oh, you don't really like this, like, you know, guy because you're not supposed to like him. And it's just, there's always been like a barrier in all the things I wanted to enjoy, and I tried to suppress it all. Like, I tried to suppress like all my desires in general over just such small stupid things. And I'm slowly kind of going back into getting rid of like that feeling of suppressing a lot of those joys, because I feel so happy when I go outside and I'm on my own. I'm like meeting people outside of my family, wearing whatever I want, drinking whatever I want, just having a good time. And then like at the end of the day, I just feel a lot of guilt behind it. It's just like I was telling myself, like, no, I don't enjoy this because I didn't want to. Does that make sense? Like, you know, I was trying to, like, you know, prevent myself of like doing the zina in a way, but I like the zina.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. So are you talking specifically about premarital sex? Like that's
yeah, that, but like something along the lines of that. But like, you know, just even like, you know, wearing mini skirts, you know, just wearing a short dress that shows your legs, you know, like talking to a non-mahram, going out with a non-mahram, you know, drinking alcohol. That's what I mean, along the lines of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if men think about it the same way. I mean, do men grow up thinking, I don't enjoy the haram things, I don't enjoy them, or I do enjoy them, but it's haram to do them, so I will wait till I can do them in the afterlife, or, you know, when I'm married. Or, and it's not just about the things that you could do with your wife necessarily. There's a lot of things that you can never do, or that even with your wife you're not supposed to do. Like it's hard to go over all the restrictions right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it really just comes down to why every single aspect of your life is policed. And I know you've like spoken about this a lot on your channel, but like, you know, the intricate restrictions in Islam are like almost every little thing, like the way you go into the bathroom, the way you leave the bathroom, the way you leave your house. And it's just gets so hard to breathe. And like that's kind of just how I've been feeling like this whole summer. It's like I literally had to hide that part of who I am, because I know that like even if my mom like saw that I was wearing, you know, I was exposing my legs, she, like, her opinion of me could change. Just an exposure of skin could change somebody's entire opinion of you and your character. And it's just that like amazes me sometimes, because like before I even started questioning, like, you know, I came to terms with like, you know, being almost Muslim-ish in a way and being an agnostic, I always thought like, oh, well, you know, they have a proper reason for feeling that way. Like, oh, there's a proper reason for like having that level of shame that like it's appropriate. And I try to give myself excuses for justifying that and justifying that judgment from other people. And now that I'm older, I'm just like, honestly, if somebody has such a visceral reaction to you because you are showing your legs, you are drinking something from like, you know, a bar, you are happy, you know, you just feel joy. If somebody has a visceral reaction, you know, to that, there's something inherently wrong with them and how they view you. And I think like when I think more about it is, you know, coming from a Pakistani background, knowing how misogynistic it is, knowing how violently misogynistic it is in general, is a lot of the violence is associated with suppressing our joy. the joy to just breathe, walk outside, to be able to choose, being to have autonomy over what we want to do, what we want to wear.
I keep thinking about how the way that you phrase it, even that you're exposing your legs and how your mother would think of you differently. When I don't think about it as exposing my legs when I'm wearing shorts. I'm just wearing shorts, either because it's what the weather calls for, the activity calls for, or because I want to wear shorts and I don't want to wear pants. Like I'm just wearing shorts. It's never a decision of obviously if it's a formal event, then because of some that I acknowledge is completely human and made up, our agreement that I can't go to a wedding in shorts, for example, right? Or most formal weddings. That's something that's completely human decided, and we agree that it is that way, and we conform to it sometimes just because, but we know that it's made up. We don't think, if I go to a wedding in shorts, I'm not going to think I might burn in hell forever for this. I'm such a bad person. What is wrong with me? Blah, blah, blah. I would just think, oh, everyone's looking at me because they're not expecting me to be wearing shorts. But the point is, it's so arbitrary, and the way that men think about it and women is very different. I don't think that I'm exposing my legs when I'm wearing shorts. I just think I'm wearing shorts. But women have been told that that's exposure, that's it's a indecency, and you're doing something actively when it's just as passive as me wearing shorts.
Yeah, and I agree with you, because it is. It really speaks to how much thought is put into the way that we move, our movement of our mobility, especially women's mobility. I mean, it's just it takes so much time, I think, for us to accept that misogyny. When you think about it, to listen to our, parents or people telling us, oh, you can't do this. Oh, you also can't do this too. Oh, no, your earring is also showing. You can't do that. Oh, why are you wearing lip liner? You can't do that either. It's so time consuming when you think about it, when honestly, I do these things because it's functional. I want to wear something because it's fucking hot. It has nothing to do me wanting to show my body off. In a way, I do enjoy that too, but it's also just hot. And the fact that my character, my my faith is questioned because of clothing in general, is just so ridiculous. And it really does make me angry. And I've been trying to mentally fight against not feeling guilty and shameful. But it's hard living a double life. I think I did mention that I do live a double life. But when I go out, I have a whole nother outfit underneath my clothes. And it's so stupid and ridiculous. And my non-Muslim friends, they think this is horrible that you even have to go through this. You should not have to go through this because you're also an adult. And yeah, it's frustrating.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny sometimes when you try to find comfort in your non-Muslim friends, you, I don't know, is it comforting or does it frustrate you when you hear them say things that are as simple as, oh, just tell your parents you don't want to do it, or just, tell them no, you're an adult. To me, sometimes it frustrated me.
Yeah, sometimes it does, especially if guys tell me that. Mostly guys tell me that, but I know I have friends too that grew up in religious Christian households too, and I have friends of mine who grew up as non-Muslims, and their moms will actually look through their clothes to make sure that they were all quote unquote modest. And at least I didn't get to experience that, thankfully, but some of them seem to understand a lot more, and coming from where they come from, I feel more seen in a way. But it is different if you're also Muslim, and they don't get that. And I do have a good support system, thankfully, but it is frustrating because you shouldn't have to go through that length to hide who you are just because you want to wear shorts or a skirt, a mini skirt, or if you just want to drink alcohol, or if you just want to go on a date or just go out. I'm not sure why is that something, especially women, from my cultural background, have to hold so much shame over, have to go as far as like blocking family off of social media and everything, just so they don't get harassed, privating their accounts to that point, just so they don't get that kind of harassment because they're just living their lives.
Mm-hmm. That's not to dissuade non-Muslims from offering support or, trying to listen to ex-Muslims or Muslims when they're talking about these issues. It's just one other frustration that we have to deal with is how obviously simple the solution is to someone from a different background, like just call the cops or just do the thing that you're supposed to do. You're an adult, like you don't have to listen to your family. So sometimes it's a good sobering reminder that especially if you live among those people, you can actually do like those people. You can take that option. It's just that we're usually scared to do it. But sometimes it's necessary. It's just up to us to decide if we've gotten to that point or not yet, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. It's just kind of hard to mentally deal with, because at least like coming from a Pakistani household, we were taught to like not call the cops for any reason. Like it was such a shameful thing because everything's like associated with shame. And even though like, something violent was happening in your home, it's like, no, you never call the police. Like what's happening in your home stays inside of your home. So it's kind of hard to break out that mentality if you grow up like that.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that a lot. The idea that it's the man of the house is the one who is basically legislating how things should go in the house. He's the judge, jury, executioner, all that stuff. And if you bring in any outsider, maybe you're allowed to bring in like other family members. Like maybe you can appeal to their parents or your parents to intervene. If you're, for example, you're with a husband and you have issues with the husband, you would have to go to older family members to intervene. But if you bring law enforcement into it, if you bring strangers into it, you are shaming that man and shaming that whole family because you're exposing, and here's that word again, you're exposing the aura that is your family, the thing that no one is allowed to see, your personal affairs that is similar to your legs. You can't show that to a man. You can't show a strange man the problems in your house either.
Yeah. It's like, I think like it connects so much to Islam too, like how Islam is taught, is like, preached in a way. It's like we have to be careful. It's like they have to be careful not to expose like the bad, quote unquote, bad parts and stuff. There are a lot of bad parts of it, and to make sure like the good part is also seen. I think there's also like a huge parallel to that. And it's just, I just hate it. I know, like, I think just overall saying, like, I'm just tired of it.
Yeah.
But, how have you been? I want to ask you, like, how are you doing mentally with everything? And, setting up like a different way to do live streams. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I can't really complain. I've gotten a huge amount of support from the community, and thanks to them we're able to do this today. Thanks to them we're able to have this call. So on that front, things have been looking up. Live streams have been getting a lot smoother with time, despite some minor difficulties here and there. So yeah, it's been going well, but I haven't published a video in a while, so hopefully I get to do that soon.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's great to hear that, like, you have something like this set up with Discord, and it seems to be running pretty smoothly too, and you don't get a lot of weirdos. And yeah, like, I just wanted to hop on and just kind of like, just let you know how I was doing, and just say hi, and see how you're doing and everything. But, like, just always keep your head up. I know it's really hard because people try to shove you down. But I think do not ever underestimate the power that you have, Aladdin or Aladdin.
I really appreciate that, and I like to think of it more as the power of the community rather than mine in any way. But maybe I should feel more empowered that way myself. I don't know. I haven't been thinking of myself as someone who's in the center of this. I'm just like I don't know. Like Aladdin is not me, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think I've... And that's not true, obviously. Like, I'm here, I'm talking to you as myself. Like, this is how we would have a conversation in real life too, if not on Discord. But somehow there's that disconnect in my head where I don't think of myself as this guy that you see on screen. I'm someone else, and I just like, sometimes I look like this guy, but I think I should feel more empowered that way. And yeah, I appreciate your supportive words.
Yeah, of course. And I hope that like one day you're able to see that that is you. Like, you know, all the aspects of like, you know, what you do is still you and who you are at the end of the day. But, you know, take your time with, you know, contemplating that, because I can imagine it can be a lot and very overwhelming. But, you know, your spaces are very important. I know like people say that a lot. I know I've said that before, but they are very important. But I do have to go, and I just wanted to, you know, talk and, you know, say hi and just, you know, tell you these things.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you talking to us today and sharing what's on your mind. A lot of people already can relate, and I'm sure they found solace in hearing you talking about these things. So thank you again.
Yeah, of course. And thank you, and thank you, everyone. And I hope that you have a great day.
Thanks. Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Thanks again to the caller, Red. Yeah, I'm not very good at taking compliments, but I try to make sure to acknowledge them enough to let you know that I have heard them and I do appreciate them, and not to sound dismissive when someone gives me a compliment, because I'm not. I'm just not very good at taking them. And one thing I want to mention before I get to the next caller, Sid, I hope that you're ready. We've got several more callers, but the queue is now closed. No more callers, only the ones who are in queue. So thank you, everyone, for wanting to join. We've got a bunch of them lined up. To answer this question by Rory, and someone else had asked about it today, have you considered acquiring a voice changer for security? So that is a feature that I could implement within the next few weeks now that I have this different setup. I can have that be by choice. If someone wants the voice changer, I can implement that so that their voice is changed, and that'll show on the live stream, and maybe I will hear it that way as well. So that's a work in progress, and that might be an option for a lot of callers who say, I want to call, but I'm scared that my voice would be recognized. I think we'll make that happen because of the this new setup of ours. So thank you again to the people who pushed us in that direction, and thank you to everyone who's helping with this new setup. A T-Rex said, I laughed when Aladdin said Aladdin isn't me, as if Aladdin is Batman and there's a Bruce Wayne behind the mask. Yeah, I mean, he wears glasses and that's about it. That's how you don't recognize him. Or no, wait, I'm thinking of Superman. Anyway, I hope Sid is ready. Let's try this again. Sid, can you hear me? You are muted, by the way. Let's see if this works. Been having a lot of difficulty getting this call to work with Sid, unfortunately. And I do want her to join.
No,
Hey.
I think it's fixed now.
Yeah.
It was really hard to figure it out.
No worries.
Yeah, it was really,
How's your day going?
really hard.
I'm sorry to hear
My
that.
day. Well, things actually got like a lot worse since yesterday, and it brought back a lot of my, I think pretty much anyone who knows me, that I've been on your channel for so long, knows I have some mental illness problem. So, well, there was some issue at work where I was framed and well, fired at the end of the day, and bringing some very huge clients. I work in the marketing, so, and just getting fired out of nowhere. And then I came home and I didn't know what to do. I was so lost. of course, my family is right outside the room, but I know I just cannot approach them or tell them. Uh, but I did anyway. So, I'm gonna tell you a story how I think I never really completely got a chance to when I finally the moment I decided to give up.
Sorry,
Do you
I'm
guys
not
have
sure.
time?
I'm not sure I understand. Can you repeat that? What would you like to talk about today?
I want to talk about the exact moment that I decided that this religion is nothing but smokes and mirror. The very second how I came to it. It's a very painful story, but I think it's time I should share it.
Okay. Is there anything that we should warn the listeners of before we start talking?
It's more of a medical thing. If someone is medically triggered by certain things such as seizures or stroke or anything, um, I think they should be careful listening to it. Otherwise, I don't think it's as much about how I completely lost everything, and that moment just was like, hey, this second clicked and everything was gone. I shared many stories about my life, but this is very significant moment because I very vividly remember that at that point I was very very sure that my whole life I've been lied to, and if this isn't a proof of it, I don't know what it is.
Well, before you share that story, I want to ask you, what do you hope what do you hope to gain from sharing the story?
Okay, the first thing is I'm not well. I'm not well. Health wise.
Now,
Is
let me
this
clarify my question. I'm not
No,
asking
yeah,
that to be
I'm going
dismissive.
there.
No, I just want to make it
Yeah.
clear. Though I'm asking so that we know what the goals are before we begin talking about it, because that frames how we talk about it. So yeah, please go ahead.
The goals. Sorry. So the goals are something along the line when you have been taught all your life that your family is everything, and in Islam you have to respect your parents. You cannot even say this Arabic word "uff" to them, and just be exactly how they want you to be, and they will never abandon you. Your family will never abandon you, and no matter what happens, they're gonna be there for you. So, and for that, I was grateful that this religion gave me that. But then also, this religion proved this very much statement wrong.
So, well, I'm sorry that has happened. Let me say it for you and tell me if it's right or wrong. So, do you believe that by sharing this, the story of how you realized that you don't believe in the religion anymore, that will give you comfort in a way?
Some comfort to me. Actually don't try to talk about it. It's just I want other girls, young women who are out there, who are very dependent on their family, who trust their family. I just want to convey my message that if you make a choice against their will, one small choice against their will, you don't know how next step of your life is going to be. For
So
me,
are
it
you
was
sharing it
being
as a
completely
precautionary tale? Is that what you're saying? That you want to warn people if this is what could
precautionary.
happen?
Yeah, this could happen, and especially in southeastern community, south. So yeah, I wanna actually tell them, save up yourself. Save the money for yourself, because you don't know when your family is just gonna just the smallest thing can completely leave you isolated in your worst of worst condition, and wouldn't turn and look back at you. But you need to be, I want these women, girls, to be strong enough. Like, I wasn't, I wish I was, but I want them to be independent enough that if someone treated them the way I was treated, that they won't take it. They would stood up for themselves.
I don't think it's fair to say that you weren't strong enough. I'm sorry that you're being treated this way, and I'm sorry that you feel that you could have behaved differently. But I think that you've always been trying to keep yourself safe, and you have your own best interests in mind all the time. You couldn't have known the optimal way to behave or to get out of a certain situation, but you have hindsight now, and that's why you're sharing your story with other people.
Yeah, but now I know, because after so many I took that kind of treatment that no one should
Sorry,
take.
Sid, give me a second.
No one should.
Sorry, we were interrupted. Can you repeat the last part again?
Yeah, I'm saying that I know that now. I know because I fell and get up and fell and get up so many times. So now I can just say these words. But when I was being treated and DV'd, domestic violence, I was taking it all in, and I wasn't speaking for myself. Wasn't doing anything for myself. I was actually begging them to take me back in for anything, literally. Like, I was on my knees. It's just very emotional. So yeah. So whenever you're ready, let's start. It's a long story.
Well, I want to make sure that we have enough time to take other callers as well, and I want to make sure that I somehow help, through this you sharing the story. So that's why I was trying to understand, what do you hope to gain from sharing a very difficult story? Not telling you not to, but so that we know what is the purpose. And I'm understanding that the purpose is to warn people that this could happen to them, and to give them a heads up to not take it as you're calling it, so that they cannot be in that situation. Is that correct?
That's exactly. I want them to know that this moment you may think your mother is the most important part of your life. I mean, you're literally dependent on her, but life is such a weird game that next minute something will happen, and the same mother would wish you the worst of the worst things. The things that were said to me were unbelievable. So yeah. So basically,
Well, I want to make it clear, we can only talk about maybe one of those things today before we get to another caller, and I want this call to be comforting to you. So I want to make sure that I'm not just hearing a lot of things that I don't really know what to say for. So So that I myself am not overwhelmed and don't know what to say, can we just talk about one thing that you would like to talk about today? Maybe one part of your story.
Okay, so this is just one part, this specifically. So in 2020, I had a stroke. Okay, so basically my family had already kind of disowned me, but my mother used to come here and there, and suddenly my whole body was starting to twist and turn, and my mouth was slurring, and like I couldn't figure it out. But I immediately went to my mom, and I was like, we need to call a ambulance. We need to call an ambulance. I was crying. I mean, I don't know what was happening with my body. I had no control over my body. I was crying, Mom, please call the ambulance. And my mom was like, there's no way I'm calling the ambulance. It's so embarrassing, because if the ambulance come, everyone is going to see something happen to one of my girls, and that would create a bad reputation. Okay. Aladdin, you can just interrupt me anytime you want. Okay, so this happens, and she doesn't call the ambulance. We live in 3 stories up apartment. I was in my first stages of stroke or something, so somehow I managed to get down, and we took the local transportation, and we went to the hospital, and I started to have seizures after seizures, and she is telling me, stop it, like something I was doing on purpose, you know. And my eyes were rolling back, and I couldn't speak because I was biting my tongue so hard that at one point I thought I won't be able to. I think I would cut my own tongue, because the blood, it was bleeding everywhere. It was my teeth.
We get
Okay,
that.
so it was. I was in the most horrible condition. I don't wish that on anyone. And doctors weren't. Being in this country is so frustrating, because there are so many fake doctors, and it's so easy to become doctor. So anyway, so these doctors aren't able to figure out what has happened. They're not familiar with the symptom of strokes, which I became more familiar with after I had one. Anyway, so they put IV on me, and gave me some Valium, and that obviously didn't work, because I was previously on medication, and so obviously the medication they were giving me was not working. So I was still having seizure, and it was an ER. So other patients were coming in, and they were like, hey, we gave her IV, and she's not getting any better. She's not getting any better. You guys need to take her out.
Sid, I really don't want to interrupt you in telling your story, but I feel like I'm sorry that all of that happened to you, and I'm sorry that your mom wanted to prioritize not somehow bringing shame to the family by calling an ambulance. That is not the way that anyone should behave when their loved one is in danger. There is no shame in calling an ambulance, or there's this idea that men shouldn't know anything about the woman in that house, including that she's having a medical emergency, and that's not okay. I'm sorry that has happened to you. I don't really know what to say to that.
She wasn't ashamed of the men. She was ashamed of the people around, the areas that she would have talked later. Oh, I had to take my single young daughter to an ambulance because this stigma over here that there shouldn't be anything wrong with the woman unless she wants to get married.
If you were married, then she wouldn't be as
Yeah,
unlikely to call an
yeah,
ambulance because you're already spoken for. But because you're married, she doesn't want people to know that you're like that there's a flaw or there's an issue with you.
exactly. That
That is
just
so shameful. Yeah. On her.
It happened like this is just so instead of taking me to another hospital, I was still in the state of seizures, continuously seizures, stroke, biting my tongue. I wasn't able to breathe because my I was choking up, and so I was trying to make these noises that I couldn't speak, but I was trying to make noises. Can I have water? Can because can someone adjust my pillow? I cannot breathe. So I was making noises, and my sisters were like, "Mom, lock her room, because if she doesn't shut up, we're going to leave the house." And my mom literally locks me up. So the whole night I spent on the agony, and at one point I got so thirsty. I was like, "Please, in the name of Allah, your lovable Allah, give me some water." And no one responded till the dawn happened, and some relative came with the car and they took me. So I was like more than, I think, 48 hours within this condition. And then finally this new doctor, she finally understood what is going on. She immediately injected me and with this so to relax my body, and she was like, "Do you guys know what happened? I mean, you guys just left her like that?" And she's saying, "Hey, you don't need to talk to us like that. We're paying here." So yeah, just like they were so dismissive of the doctor, and doctor said this happened because she was put into a lot of stress, and I was put into, because before the stroke we had a fight about something. I was under a lot of stress, and the doctor highly advised my mother not to leave me alone more than 1 hour to 2 hour. Keep checking on me, you know.
Well, Sid, I'm really sorry that your mom prioritized what would people say over your own safety. And it's not just your mom, it takes an entire community of complacent and like-minded people to behave that way. I'm glad that you eventually got some help, and I'm sure that it's not what should have happened. You should have gotten help the moment that you asked for it, and I'm sorry that that has happened. And I'm glad that you're still with us today, and that you're telling people about this, because it's not that uncommon of a thing to happen. It's not that uncommon to think of women as some kind of commodity that they don't want people to find out is flawed before it's sold. It's unfortunate that people think that way, and thank you for sharing that part of your story. I mean, yeah, I wish I could let you continue to share, but honestly I wouldn't know what else
Just
to say to it. And yeah,
one last part.
Okay, but we do
This
have
is
to
where
wrap
it
up the
ends
call.
technically. Yeah. So when we get back home from the hospital, it was the Zohar time, and the first thing she says to me, "Okay, get up and pray and thank God that you're okay." And that was the moment I was like, I'm done. So it was very wrapped up, but just wanted to give a little content to the whole thing. So I was like, if this is Rahman Rahim, and this is and my mother is supposed to love me, and I'm not supposed to disrespect her, all of this is, if this is lie, all of it is lie, because no one should go through this, no one should receive this kind of treatment. And again, to all the girls, I'm not saying that your moms are bad or anything. I'm just saying they sometimes are wrong, but you need to stand up for yourself. And you think I couldn't call ambulance on my own, but if you can, just do it. Or if anything happens, there was a lot I needed to say more, but due to the lack of time. Thank you for giving me time again, by the way. First we had a problem. I really appreciate it, and I really miss Aladdin reads. We need our Aladdin back. And yeah, I was thinking of emailing you my story to read, but I'm
Well,
not,
Sid, I want to know, is there a way that, I mean, we all support you and we can tell you that we support you and we'll give you kind words, and I'm sure a lot of people like to hear your story, but I want to know, is there anything someone closer to you can do to help? Like, for example, is there any organization that someone can help you find and get in touch with to get you some help? Is there any way that we can help you get out of that situation or improve it?
sadly, I've tried almost everything. Unfortunately, this country is so corrupt that there are places, but those places are not safe for the moment, because I personally have interviewed, for my thesis, interviewed a couple of women how they were treated. Like, there's a place, Darul Aman, which is for like women who don't have homes or any safety places, but some get into, there's some shady business out there, and a lot of people immediately get turned off if I mention I'm not following the religion anymore. So though all of these places are very so-called religious places because they are run by religious people. So to
I
my
mean,
extent,
is
I
there any
wasn't
way
able.
that you can get help from them without having to get into religion? I mean, you could tell them that, for example, in your state you get exceptions from fasting, or you pray a certain way that's quicker by yourself. Is there a way to just get that help, and even if you don't have to tell them what you believe?
Yeah, I mean, so
I know it's not
not
super
that I
comfortable,
know
but
of, actually.
if you can somehow
No.
reach out to one of those organizations and like find a way that they can help you without prying too much into the religious side of it, that's what I would advise you to do.
I'll take it into consideration. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to get out of the country. I mean, but fingers crossed. It's not easy, actually. We have a very poor passport. I think I've taken enough time. Thank you for everything, and yeah.
Thank you again for calling, and I hope that things improve, and I hope that we hear from you that things have improved in the future. Take
Yeah,
care,
I
Sid.
really hope so. I mean, you take care as well.
Bye-bye. Thanks again, Sid, for sharing your story. It's so unfortunate that Sid's not the first or last person to be a victim of this mentality, the idea that what would people say about our daughter if we call an ambulance? It's baffling even to make that connection when she said a young single daughter. What does that have to do with calling an ambulance? But unfortunately, in that part of the world, and in many other parts of the world too, that's how people think. And thank you, Sid, for sharing that cautionary tale, and I hope that you do manage to reach out to someone who can offer you some help in that situation. Yeah. Okay. We still have a few callers, and queue is closed, so we're not taking any more callers for the day to join the queue, but we've got at least 3 callers at the moment, starting with Fumi. And I will add Fumi to the live stream now if she is ready. Let's see if this works. Hey, Fumi, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can, but it seems like the microphone is, maybe check which microphone you're using, because it seems to be not quite good.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Do you want to put me on hold for a sec so I can get it together?
Sure. I will remove you from the room for now, and then, just give me an indication that you're good to go, and then I'll add you again.
Okay, thanks.
All right, sure. Okay. So I'm waiting on the caller. In the meantime, is there any comment that you'd like me to highlight? There were a lot of supportive comments for Sid, as always. And we're all thankful that Sid was able to call and share her story. And if there's anything we can do, please do let us know. But I think maybe the best thing to do is to try to find an organization that helps women in that situation in your city or country, and either donate to them or see how you can help them do what they do. So I guess that is everyone's task. The homework for today is try to find that organization in your area and donate to them, or see if you can help them another way. Okay. Fumi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you?
Yeah, just need to mute me.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, but I suspect
Okay.
there might be an echo.
Perfect.
Yeah, there's an echo.
There is an echo?
Yeah, I can hear my own voice. Maybe better now. Okay, seems to have gone now. So, welcome back to the live stream. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm so sorry to the previous caller. As somebody with health issues, I can't imagine needing medical attention, because I have, and I've been put in an ambulance and taken somewhere. I can't imagine being denied medical care in any situation. And I'm so sorry that happened, and it was for such a ridiculous reason. So just, stay strong, Sid. I definitely have not been there the way you have, but I've definitely been there a little. And, we're here for you. We're going to get you some resources, and we're going to be here for you. So I just wanted to say that to her.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries, always. So I know the last time I called, so for people that didn't hear me, the last time I called, I'm an ex-convert in the US. And I fell in love with Islam temporarily, just because it kind of gave me guidance, and it gave me focus, and it gave me a direction. But also, as you know, I ended up with an abusive ex-husband, which was my way out of Islam. And the last time we talked, you said that you had so many questions, but you didn't want to overwhelm me. And I don't know if you had any that you wanted me to answer, or any questions that you had, because I'd be willing to expand on my situation, and give, any insight I can to someone like me, because I know we don't get a whole lot of ex-converts. It's mainly people born into a Muslim family.
I've spoken to a fair share of ex-converts on the channel, but it's every time every person's story is different, whether they're a convert or not. But
Right.
it's even more unique from my perspective, because it's not what I grew up around. So I'm curious. I don't know. I could start anywhere. Did you convert at the same time as someone else? Like, did you have any friends who were recent converts?
No, not at the same time. They kind of had like a new Shahada type group. It wasn't official at my masjid. it was just kind of like, oh, we have some other, ladies that converted, here they are, you guys can talk. And then I was present for some people that took Shahada kind of a little bit after me. So I guess it was kind of like a multi-marketing scheme, I guess, because I took Shahada and then a girl asked me about it a couple months after I converted. So I helped her and she converted a couple months after me, and we were kind of like, buddies, new Shahada buddies. So yeah, that's the way that worked.
And how was that experience? What can you tell us about having convert friends?
It's a good idea for a lot of people, and I'm gonna say this, especially if you're Black. Unfortunately, there's a lot of colorism and racism in the Muslim community. I mean, there's colorism and racism everywhere, but as someone that's, lived quite a few decades as a Black woman, I've never experienced that level of racism and colorism directly to my face as I did then. When you're getting suddenly rejected like that, told that you're ugly, that, I would never marry a Black woman, that you might as well just marry whoever you can because that's the best you're going to do. You've seen me, I'm not an ugly person. I'm not gorgeous, but you can verify I'm not ugly, right? And so you get told these things, and for a lot of us that are Black Americans, we're not used to it. And so we were able to kind of support each other in that way, because most of us were single. We actually weren't converting to be with a current Muslim male partner. We just came in on our own, and we were kind of just comforting each other with that. And I was also told that for my ex-husband as well. Like, they weren't as cruel when they said it, but people said it. And even the other Black ladies I was with, the Black converts, they kind of were like, look, girl, we don't have nearly as many options as the white girls do. So, we got to work with what we got. And that was one of the biggest
to
things.
Clarify,
Yeah.
said it, you said they said it with your ex-husband. What did they say exactly? That you should tolerate an abusive husband?
No, I didn't know he was abusive at the time. It was just more, I felt pressured because it's just hard. It's hard, and I thought, well, maybe I should wait for someone else, and I can maybe find someone different. And then I was no, that was actually a spam. It's actually, yeah, no,
Wait.
it's just the voicemail saying it's a spam
Okay.
call. Don't pick it up. It
That's
tells
fine.
me when it's spam. Yeah, no worries. Thank you for that, though, for protecting me.
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry that has happened. I mean, telling you to your face that you're less attractive, so just take what you can get is it doesn't sound like it was subtle, but I mean, are you, and this is kind of an awkward question to ask, but do you prefer that it was not subtle, or would you rather it have been subtle in the way
No,
that they were
tell
telling
me
you
to my
that?
face. Tell me
Yeah.
to my face how you feel, because I know what you are and I know how to approach you. That's the thing about, I think, the US, and to a more extent Europe. This is just my experience. Is racism is very subtle, which makes it more insidious. And it's hard sometimes to know if someone is just a jerk, or if they're just ignorant, or if they're just straight up racist. Sometimes it can be hard to discern. When someone is racist to your face, you know what's up. They've told you the deal, and you can move forward from there. So while it was incredibly painful, it was actually also preferable for that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, did you have convert friends who weren't black?
Not, I'm trying to like run over it. Convert friends, no, not really. But to be clear, this was well over 20 something years ago, so it's not doxing me to say at the time I was living in a predominantly black area. So that was more of a demographic thing of the, local community around versus, there was all kinds of different people. It wasn't as diverse. So.
That's something that I've noticed often, but I didn't want to speak too much on because I myself am not black or a convert. But I've noticed that when someone who is Caucasian joins Islam, they're celebrated almost. It's like a weird amount of almost worshipped to some extent.
It is. Oh yeah. My ex-husband's favorite scholar was a white man. Now my ex-husband was black too, and black Muslims are not immune to having that white knight. Like, I'm so fascinated that black Muslims can have that feeling as well. And it's definitely, and I think, and somebody asked in the chat, because I'm just reading along, that I think racism was a part of Islam. I don't think racism is a part of the religion, but I think it's a part of the history. I think a lot of black Muslims in America don't know about the incredibly long African slave trade that happened in the Middle East. And so you have them saying, oh, I'm gonna convert because Christianity is, our master's religion, which is technically true. But in the Middle East, Islam was the slave master's, religion, right? But they don't know that. I mean, a lot of people just don't know Muslim history. They know the basics about like Tawheed and, the 5 pillars and things like that. But as far as the history of Muslims, they're not aware of it. And so, yeah, it was definitely slave jokes. We used to call Bilal my one black friend, it was kind of like a running joke with the converts that I knew. But
wait, so as converts, this seems a bit too self-aware for me. So as converts, you called Bilal, the Prophet's freed slave, you called him your one black friend. Like, you were aware that he was the token black guy in Islam?
Oh, we always know when something is a token. It doesn't matter where it is. You know what I mean? Like, you can always catch it. And we just let the Muslims like make us try and feel better. Like, oh, did you hear about Bilal? And I'm like sitting here in a masjid in a full hijab during Eid, and you're asking me, do I know about Bilal? Yeah, I do. But I'm like, oh, really? Oh, mashallah, sister, tell me. Like, I would just kind of humor them because they were so happy to tell me. I didn't want to steal their thunder. But yeah, I would joke about it with some of my black friends. Whenever we heard it, we would kind of giggle.
Yeah, I mean, every time I bring up, I would go even a step further. You said that it's not Islam that is racist. I softly disagree. I think there's precedent in Islam for racism, not because like Islam commanded racism or Islam was more racist than the schools of thought around it, but it was certainly, it captured part of the racism that was reflected at the time, in the people. The way that Islam views whiteness, paleness, be it in terms of attractiveness in the afterlife or this like almost goodness, pureness, when something is white, when the Prophet puts his hand in his pocket and it comes out white, then it's pure, it's great. And then there's more explicit hadiths about how the Prophet traded like 2 black slaves for one Arab slave. Like there's a lot of this idea that Muslims always fall back on, well, everyone's equal in the eyes of Allah, but Islam codified and kind of fossilized and saved a lot of the racism that was going on at the time. And a real prophet from God would have known immediately that this is wrong, and you can't even use the same dictionary as everyone around you just because that's what's happening. Like, you should know what words to use. But yeah, it's certainly not that Islam says be racist to people of color, but
Right.
the racism has always been there to some extent, and the Islamic slavery is more impactful even than slavery that Americans are familiar with, but most people aren't aware of that.
Oh yeah, and I think though that comes into play where it's racism versus colorism, because as everybody knows, you can be a specific race and not fall into the stereotype. Like I have one grandmother that had white, like almost white skin. It was really interesting, and like dark red hair, and it was just kind of curly. But everybody else in her family was brown skin. They all looked the same, like they looked like a family in terms of features, but not in skin tone. And I've seen light skin, very light skinned black women were not treated as if they were black. Does that make any sense? Like people would be aware that they were black, but because they had lighter skin, lighter eyes, the sisters were generally wearing hijab, so you never knew about their hair color, but you could see the light skin and the light eyes. They were never told the same things that I was, and I'm kind of like in the middle skin tone wise. I'm not super light, I'm not super dark, I'm just kind of brown. That was kind of in the no-go zone. It was that color and darker. And because, my first roommate was from Bangladesh, and she was darker than me. And she got kind of the same thing, but we're two different races. Do you know what I mean? But it's our skin color that's comparable.
Yeah, it's in a lot of Muslim countries. I remember growing up watching an ad for this product called Fair and Lovely, and it was like a cream that women are supposed to put on their face, and it makes them lighter, like their skin tone is lighter. It was, I don't know if they got the idea from, a lot of people like to blame colonialism somehow. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe in the past, during time of colonization, the colonized would look up to the colonizer and see that they're pale and they want to aspire to be more like them. Maybe that's part of it, but it's survived. And like I said, there's precedent for that kind of thinking back in the days of the Prophet too. The idea that paler women are attractive in the afterlife, and it's usually when they're talking about a certain woman in a hadith, they'd be like, she was the fairest in all of the land, and like the palest, and so it was clearly the mentality of Arab men back then, but Islam just shifted it on for at least 1400 years instead of fixing it at the time, had it been a religion from God.
Right, and I saw Apostate T-Rex was saying that there's a lot of racism in Islamic countries. Oh, I definitely know that. I've been to multiple predominantly Muslim countries in various parts of the world. I'll be vague. And I definitely see that, but I didn't see it was any worse as some other places that I went that are completely non-Muslim. It's just about how they decide to go about it. And also too, a lot of times too, when I leave the country, I'm treated as an American. When I'm in the country, I'm treated as a black person. So how I feel, how I look at myself depends on where I am. But, obviously I said that I'm from the US. So when I'm home, I just feel very, very black. And I think Islam, like the basis, like a lot of people are saying, is trying to get everybody together and we're all one ummah. That's what Malcolm X, when he went to Mecca and Medina, seeing all that visually helped him make that change. But like you said, racism is so codified in the Islamic religion that it directly works against that alleged unification that they claim that it has.
And this is a thought that came to mind that's kind of unrelated to Islam in this area, but I'm from in the Middle East, and I remember there is racism against black people in the Middle East, of course. But what you mentioned about like an American, the idea of an American makes it a whole different category. Like Will Smith, cool guy, cool, African American man, but a man with the same look and complexion in the Middle East is not seen in that same category.
Right.
It's weird how like America gives them this like it has its own kind of cachet, if that's the word. But that's not related to Islam. It's like racism is a big problem in the Middle East, and I can attest to that. And they are behind even today. So yeah, I don't know. That's just a random thing I noticed.
Yeah, well, the closest I've ever felt to slavery was in Dubai. I consistently say this, and people look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm like, no, if you look at the way they treat their guest workers there, it very much looks and feels like slavery. I remember I was watching one of those buy a house, somewhere abroad, and there was a family from America, and they were in Dubai, and they were looking at the apartment, and there was this one windowless room, and the mom said, well, what is this for? It's random. And they said, oh, that's for your domestic help. And the American family looked so horrified. I mean, you could tell that was not staged because their faces just looked disgusted of, like, why would we put our nanny or our maid or somebody in this windowless room, with no natural light or anything? But it's not considered a bad thing there. It's like slavery, where we had the cabins and the fields and the plantations and all this other stuff. That's still how they think. It's a mentality, and it's sad. It's just really sad.
Well, I mean, to bring it back to the religion, did you ever bring up these issues with someone in the community or a religious preacher or something?
No, I think that most of the imams and scholars I followed were American, meaning like born and raised here. Some of them were converts, some of them weren't. But I felt like I didn't really have to because they are aware, being a product of this society, that that's an issue regardless of where you are and what you are. And to say it, I wouldn't be telling them anything that they don't know. And the few times I've broached it with Muslims that are not Western, because obviously if I tell somebody from Europe or Canada, or, I do know some Muslims that are South American, they understand that as well. So it's kind of telling them something that they know. But if I tell somebody outside of that hemisphere about it, like an Arab or an Asian person or even a Black African, they were like, no, they downplay it. Oh, they're not good Muslims. And, that's always the thing that they go back to, right? When you do something wrong, when there's a problem in the Ummah, when there's anything, they're just not good Muslims. Well, does that matter? It still needs to be addressed. They're still Muslims, So yeah, I didn't really say anything about it. I just kind of talked to it with the sisters that were in kind of my circle and just left it at that.
Well, what you said about they're just not good Muslims, I think that comes from this idea that there's some perfect Islam and perfect way to act as a Muslim, and you're bringing up the problem, if you were to talk to someone about it, is seen as an attack against that perfect Islam rather than a description of what's currently happening and what can we do about it. So
Right.
they usually think, how can I defend the religion from this accusation that Islam has anything to do with it? And even if that were true, that there was this mythical perfect Islam and the mythical perfect Muslim, I think that people focus too much on that. And if there is something systemically making a lot of Muslims behave a certain way at the current time, then that needs to be addressed, even if there is another mythical perfect Muslim that exists somewhere that they're not behaving like. But it's usually that first line of defense. Islam has nothing to do with this. It's not Islam's fault. Now, just pray to Allah that they would be a better Muslim, and that's it.
Yeah, last time when I was talking about my ex-husband, you actually I don't want to say called somebody out because you were very respectful, but you addressed somebody while I was talking that had said, oh, well, her ex-husband wasn't a true Muslim because Islam says to treat wives nicely. And I think Stella said that, it's a no true Scotsman fallacy type thing, which it is. And then that's actually something you emphasize is like, what is a perfect Muslim? Because a lot of times when people are doing certain things we find bothersome as ex-Muslims or never Muslims, I don't know. Lost my train in thought in that. I kind of went left, but yeah, it's just easy for them to just write people off instead of addressing what the actual issue is. Because you can do lots of different things that we don't like. It doesn't make you not a good Muslim. What's a good Muslim? Like you said, Islam allows a lot of sadistic, disgusting things. So, you can't say because somebody does something offensive that they're not a good Muslim. A lot of Islam is offensive, as we know.
I mean, if a man is upset at his wife and he pushes her on the chest, does that make him a bad Muslim? A lot of Muslims would say no, but I mean, in Islam, you are allowed to do that, and also the Prophet himself did that.
Right.
So that's just like one micro example of how someone can do something that doesn't seem like what a good insert religious person here would do. But I'm sure that's also what Christians think, that a good Christian does no wrong. So, a good Muslim does no wrong. But sometimes what they're doing is not even considered wrong in religion. And even if it was, the religion has set them up to do that and feel empowered to do that, even if they're not supposed to take it that far.
Yeah, it definitely gives. But that's one thing. I don't know if it's Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens. I don't know who said it. But they were saying religion can make amazing people do terrible things. And that's so true. People that were good and kind and had a good sense of humanity and humility, they learned a certain version of a specific religion or indoctrination. And then that's it. They're gone. And sometimes they want to take other people down with them. It's sad. It's just really sad.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's try to end it on a positive note. What is something that a positive thing that you've taken from this entire journey in and out of Islam?
I would say, and this is something that's I would actually think is most of us, is that we're super strong, and while we think we're unlucky in some ways, because of the things that happen to us when we leave, especially people that are born into Muslim families, and it's way more complicated. We're really lucky that we were able to free ourselves, to think for ourselves, to believe what we feel instead of what other people are telling us, and to control our own morality and our own destiny. And that's the thing, like normally I'm super cheerful, as you know, but it kind of went serious, and I have no problem with that. Nobody can have positive, happy things all the time, right? But that is one thing that when I listen to our stories, I just feel like, damn, we're lucky, We have a sense of freedom, physical freedom, especially for the women. We're not forced into hijab or to be wrapped up all the time. It's just this beautiful sense of freedom, and I'm so happy I found it, and I'm so happy for all the ex-Muslims that are listening that have found it as well. I'm proud of us.
Well, I'm happy that you think of it that positively, and for everyone who's not exactly enjoying that level of freedom yet, I hope that you take it as a sign that it is possible, and that someday you will enjoy it as well. And I wish that for everyone.
Me too. Awesome. Thank you so much, nephew. I'm going to move along and let somebody else take my spot, but I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciated you calling today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Thanks again to Fumi. Fumi's been a recurring caller as well. We've had a bunch of recurring callers on this live stream. And I'm always happy to hear from the same people again. And I'm always happy to hear from new callers as well. So thank you, everyone. There's one last caller, Suzy, before we end. We still got time for one last caller. So hope you are ready, Suzy, because I am adding you to the live stream now. Hey, Suzy, can you hear me?
Hello.
Right. Hi. How's it going?
All right, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Good, good.
So, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're calling today.
This is my second time on the show. I'm from the Middle East, and I just wanted to share a bit of my story in a way, or let's say my story. I thank you so much for making this episode for ex-Muslim females. This is the first, I think.
I think we might have tried this in the past, and that's when we were being sabotaged more often. But yeah, I'm happy to do it, and I'm happy to make that space just for female ex-Muslim callers, and also Muslim callers, but usually it's ex-Muslim females. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, of course, happy to do it.
Just by reading the title, the first thing came to my mind is what's in it for us in Islam, as Muslim, as women in Islam. What's in it for us? If you think about it, nothing. Not in this life, not in the hereafter, if there is such a thing as the afterlife. So yes, it's just a weird thing how we grow up as women believing in this religion and fighting for this religion. I remember myself as an 18-year-old girl having a discussion with a classmate who's Christian. She was arguing with me about why would my brother inherit double just because he's a man and I'm a woman, and I was justifying how as a Muslim I don't have to spend any money, I don't have to take any responsibilities. If my parents die, my brother needs to take care of me. This is why I don't need to inherit as much as him. And how ridiculous that is now thinking about it. Why would you give me the half and say to me, like, we'll take care of you? It's just women in Islam, and they're in the best case scenario, they're treated like a child. That's the best case scenario. If you have a daughter and you're trying to take care of your daughter, spoil your daughter a bit, oh, you don't need to drive, I'll drive you. Oh, you don't need to do this, I'll do it for you. This is in the best case scenario as a taking care of child. And in the worst case scenario, we are slaves. We are simply there for the pleasure of the man, unfortunately. I can't see it in a different way. No matter what they say, no matter how feminist Muslims try to make it look like Islam is empowering us, hijab is empowering, modesty is empowering. It stopped making sense.
How did that switch flip for you? Because you said at some point you were that person defending it, as is very common. A lot of Muslims, myself included, would use logic like that, saying, well, the woman gets a lower inheritance because she gets, even her inheritance that she gets, that half, she doesn't have to spend it on anything because she's the queen, that the man has to provide for her. That's her right in Islam. So she's taking that money home while the man's taking it to the family. And she's taking it to spend on whatever she wants. And of course, that's not solid logic because it's infantilizing, like you said. It's putting women in a position of needing to be under a man. But I eventually figured that out. At first, I didn't see it that way. When did that switch flip for you?
I was just regurgitating what my teacher told me. There was no engaging my brain at the time. You just believe what you've been told. And when I left the country and started seeing women around me working hard. But then with working hard, again, working hard is a bad thing. Where I'm from, they say, oh, in the West, women, they leave their children to childcare and they have to go and support themselves because husbands don't spend money and don't expect the woman to share in the cost of living. And that by itself is a negative thing, is seen as a negative thing. But when I lived amongst this society, I noticed, yes, it is probably tough. Yes, going out of the house is tough. Having a full-time job with children is tough. But it comes with freedom. You don't need to ask or beg or feel shy, or the financial freedom is a huge thing. Again, also, they're not miserable. They do get support. Working women do get support from their husbands, as in house chore support, as in childcare support. From where I'm from, you cannot leave your children with their dad because the dad doesn't tolerate them. As if when it comes to duties, it's the woman's children, not the man and woman's children. You know. So,
he just brings home the money, like that's his part of the agreement.
Yes, yeah, and even in the Middle East, in the last 20 years, life became really tough, and lots of women had to go to work, and they sometimes can earn the same as the man, and sometimes more, depending on what they're doing. But still, she's the one expected to cook, and he's the one who would switch on the telly as soon as they come home, watch the news while she's in the kitchen preparing. This is the norm. She's in the kitchen preparing food, although they work the same number of hours. Yeah, but it's so unfair. And I've seen stories.
Sorry to clarify.
Sorry.
It shouldn't even have to do anything with how much they're earning. I mean, the woman could be working the same amount of hours and earning less or more. It still matters the same in terms of sharing responsibilities. Like, even if, say, the woman's working a minimum wage job and she's making half of what he's making, maybe partly because she is a woman and like she gets paid less, it still doesn't mean that he now is entitled to more rest because he makes more money. It should be more about, you know, how much a person can give. And I'm sure you understand that, but I wanted to clarify that for people. But yeah, it's expected that the woman is a mother on top of, and like a mother as in doing all the house duties and all the raising the kids duties on top of working. And in the past couple of decades, it has been the case that a lot of women in the Middle East are working alongside their husbands because of necessity, not because of empowerment, not because they're a human being who can pay for themselves. It's the family needs more money, so they're working, and they still have to do a double job. So it's unfortunate for them.
So, because the man in the Middle East can be a bit sensitive. So when the woman goes to work, and if she comes back tired, it's better not to express how tired she is, and it's better not to express how inconvenient it is for her to raise the children and work in the house and out of the house. Otherwise, I don't know the word in English. I'm أتمنى الرجال. She's not supposed to like say, look, I'm working, because that will hurt the man. So you need to swallow everything and not express it.
You're saying, like, if she asks the man for help doing the chores or raising the kids, it's like she's rubbing it in his face that she's working, and he's already doing her a favor by letting her work.
He's allowing her to leave the house because you need his permission, after all, especially if the work is mixed. You know, he's allowing you to go and work with other men. That by itself needs his permission. It's just so ridiculous if you think about it now. But in the past, it was the norm. You need your husband's permission to allow you to go to work. Otherwise, you are you're a sinner. I mean, I remember being a young adult listening to the hadith where it says, a woman's husband was away and her dad died and she did not attend his funeral because like she couldn't ask her husband. But then God rewarded her because she didn't leave the house without her husband's permission. That's very important.
I hate this idea. Like, I grew up that submissive. I mean, aside from women's issues, I grew up with this submissiveness that if I am not breaking the rules, I want recognition for that. Like, Allah's gonna, give me a reward for not doing the haram thing or not doing the bad thing. And this hadith is a similar thing, that the woman didn't do the bad thing of going to the funeral without her husband's permission, and Allah rewarded her. It's indoctrination. It's breeding submissive people, generations of submissive people, and submissive to the wrong thing. Like, submissive to this idea that your husband decides whether you go out or not. Like, that's Islamically how it is.
It's very important to put that incentive that God is going to reward you, because after all, you're convincing a woman to act against any common sense, to go and attend your father's funeral. There's nothing wrong with that, but how do you make it wrong? How do you make her tolerate this rubbish ruling if you don't put a reward? Just like, for example, like لعن الله النامصة والمتنمصة. God will curse you if you plug your eyebrows or put in a hair extension, or was the other one the one who, like, the washimo mustoshima, if you put a tattoo to someone or you wear a tattoo yourself. And here it's not a reward, it's a huge punishment. It's cursing. So you need, because wearing a tattoo or doing a tattoo or putting an extension or plugging eyebrows there's nothing wrong with that. You're not hurting anybody, you're not hurting yourself even. But to make it so scary, you either put a very severe punishment like cursing, and then you finish that hadith by saying cursing means you cannot smell the scent of paradise, and the scent of paradise can be smelled from, like, I don't know how many years away. So it's a huge thing. They explain how huge the curse is. And also here they say God's gonna reward you because they if you wait for your husband's permission, because it's nonsense. Why do you need your husband's permission? Because they know the woman is able to do what she wants. It's not like she's incapable of opening the door and leaving, but they need to put such an incentive, either a huge reward or a huge curse. So, as you said, it is a form of horrible indoctrination, and it used to work in the past. I mean, if you grow up from a very young age believing this, why would you doubt it? Mm-hmm. It's scary as well.
It's and you can back me up on this. It's not just that it's in the hadith and the Quran. These sentiments are echoed in pop culture, in music, in television, in jokes. Mm-hmm. I would see the same things. Like you watch, I'm sure you watch Arabic TV. When you see in a movie that a guy is pursuing a girl and like he gets, or it's his wife or something, and he gets angry at her for doing something without his permission, and then eventually she apologizes and they're all good, and that's how they reconcile, is the woman obeys her husband. We see that in pop culture. It's so deeply ingrained in us that we don't even need a preacher to tell us that. We've translated it into other media.
Yeah, even in the recent songs, some Egyptian songs, mahrajanat, they're a bit rough. They're a bit like I love you against your will. It's just like it aggressiveness of it.
Mahrajanat they're kind of like trash music. So even if you granted that this is trash music, in just everyday music that everybody listens to, in movies that everybody thinks are funny, I keep seeing this sentiment on and on again, that the guy can like shove around a woman or be angry at her for not obeying him, and that reconciliation is she eventually realizes that, okay, he gets the say in this. So yeah, you don't have to look that far to find these examples in everyday culture, and at the end of the day, a preacher can back up what they're saying.
and in soap operas, it's meant to be out of love. Like the husband is so angry with the wife, and he's insulting the wife because he's so protective of her, and like that toxic love. They're promoting this idea of very violent love that can be toxic, but the woman should be happy with it because she's desired and he loves her, and it's just so messed up.
And you know what,
Even
their
the previous,
defense, like as soon as you bring that up, they would usually, people would give you the opposite example and say, so would you rather have a husband who wants you to be around other men and sleep with other men? And like they just go to the opposite extreme, and they say, so would you rather have a toxic masculinity, angry, jealous, possessive husband, or would you rather have a husband who doesn't even want you? Like they have no in between.
I lived in this community where I see men who are proud of their women, working hard, playing hard, partying hard, having fun, and going on holidays and wearing whatever they want. And they're protective of their wives when she's wearing a bikini. And I don't see them as I used to think of them in the past. You know, they have this saying, those like they're like animals, or it's just it depends how you look at it. There was a Kuwaiti or Saudi sheikh. I don't know exactly his name, but once he had some drawings of different styles of hijabs and explaining what's wrong with each one. Like this one, abaya is a bit too tight, and this one is showing a bit of the legs, and this one is something wrong with each style of hijab. And the last one, he put a picture of her and her husband. She wasn't wearing any hijab. The last picture was a picture of a woman without a hijab and her husband. And her husband's face was drawn as khanzir, as a pig. And this is how they actually make, like, they tell the man, if you allow your wife to go out with her hair exposed, so you're a pig. This is how I feel for the men in that situation, because if a man in that society wants to be an open-minded man and progressive and say to himself, I don't have any say on whatever my wife wants to dress like, she doesn't want to wear the hijab, but then the society will call him a pig, and that's a big thing in a way. Like,
I mean,
they're
yes,
not
society
given a choice.
will start to question his manhood and his masculinity, and then his response would be to double down and maybe get even more aggressive, and anything that the woman asks for that goes against societal or Islamic values, he would think, like, are you trying to make me look bad in front of people? Are you insulting me by asking me to go out, or by telling me I don't want to take off my hijab, or whatever it is? He takes it as an attack against himself.
Yeah, because they make it about him. That's the problem. Yes, it is not about him. He's not the one who's wearing the hijab in such a hot country. He's not the one having to cover up. But it is about him because she's his, you know. And as a father, it's the same. They say, "Oh, brother, but you're accountable in front of Allah in the day of judgment. He will be asked about your daughter, about your wife, and blah, blah." So it is about him, even if he wanted to be a bit more understanding, but it is about him. There's another hadith that if you raise 3 daughters, and they fear Allah and they're good daughters, you'll enter paradise. So it is about me. I want you to wear the hijab because I want to enter paradise. There's no individualism in such a religion. It's all about the tribe, in the name of the tribe. In a way.
The indoctrination machine, like, it's working on all fronts. So if you indoctrinate good Muslim women, you go to paradise. If you let them do anything that isn't what a good Muslim woman would do, you will get shamed, you will get punished. It's your duty as a father, as a husband, as a brother, as whatever. You are a bad person. So on all fronts, even if a man was to think, why does a woman have to wear hijab? Like, that thought alone just destroys his masculinity, destroys his image in front of other people, and he will suppress it and just behave like every other man who says, well, of course you have to wear it, it's my honor, it's your honor, all that kind of stuff. But no one takes time to think about the source of it all, because we take it as granted that, okay, we've taken it as granted that a woman must cover up her hair. So now, what are we thinking about how much should a man tolerate a woman doing something bad? But no one's going back and asking, why does a woman have to cover up her hair? Because the answer to them is Allah said so.
Yeah. Funny thing is that as a man, or as a young, let's say a father has a daughter and a son, his son is free to do whatever he wants, even sinning. Like a man is not gonna be ashamed if his son is sinning. That's fine. He's gonna learn from his mistakes. He will repent. He'll go to Hajj. He will sort it out. There's no shame. And also, in some societies and conservative societies, they do say a man needs experience. It's essential. So it's just so so weird.
A lot of Muslim men and even preachers would sometimes brag about their days of being, whatever it is, like sleeping around or going clubbing or whatever haram thing. And then they would say, but I've changed and I've tasted that and it was a bad thing and I've changed since then. And they have no shame in saying that, and they get praised for it even. And they get a little bit of the cool factor of showing off, I used to be a playboy, without actually saying, I like being a playboy. They're saying, I used to do it and I'm a better person now. But a woman can't say any of that. She can't even say, I used to be a woman who sleeps around and now I've changed my mind. Like, she would be shamed. She'd be like, what about your dad? How can your dad hear about this? But if someone were to come out, like if I was to come out and say, I slept with a lot of women, I don't think my dad would be ashamed. Right? Especially if I was saying...
She's not going to be ashamed. Let's be honest. She's going to be killed. I mean, yes, ashamed is something. Let her be ashamed. That's fine. I can put up with shame. But I know I'm going to be killed. Like, especially when there is no punishment for honor killing. I can easily be killed. There was the story of the Palestinian lady who sat in a coffee shop with someone who proposed to her a few days before in her family house. She sat in the coffee shop with him, took a selfie for herself, put it on Instagram, and the next thing, 3 days later, she was in the hospital, and then she died from her injury, because her brothers and her cousins actually, they beated her up to death, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, if it's about shame, we can put up with shame, but it's not shame only. Unfortunately, I'm not saying in all societies, but it does exist. Still now exists. I mean, yes, upper class societies and richer communities, they don't do that. And in richer communities, and you find some women living in Egypt and other countries as if they are in the West, and good for them. I'm not saying they shouldn't. Good for them for being able to be free, but unfortunately that is limited to certain communities only. And the poorer the community is, the harsher the punishment is.
I mean, these incidents can happen and do happen everywhere in the world, in all sorts of Muslim communities all around the world. Every country that you can think of in the Middle East, this happens in very regularly. And even in countries where it would be absolutely illegal and everyone would stop you from doing it, just having the encouragement and protection and the mentality from other believers around them, this sort of stuff happens in the UK, in the US, in any country where it's illegal to do these things to women. It still happens because that mentality isn't exclusive to one region. And it all stems from, like, we keep having these side discussions about how much should a man tolerate his wife doing something haram, and not thinking about what is so shameful about that thing to begin with. So sometimes this conversation can be so difficult because even the most progressive Muslims are discussing the wrong thing. They're discussing whether or not a man should allow his wife to do something that'll land them both in hell. That's not the discussion. The discussion is, who says that this will land them both in hell? Why is it so shameful to show hair that God created? Like, why are we still having this discussion 1400 years later? Unfortunately, we just tend to get distracted by trying to meet them halfway and trying to converse with them about, please let the people sin, when that's not the main discussion here.
define as sin? Like that's
Depends on who you ask in Islam. Like, could be anything.
yeah.
Um,
It's again, I think it's about morality, but define morality. Is killing your sister a moral action, or it's just that we need to redefine a lot of things.
Well, but you can't
It's
redefine them without redefining the religion or removing the religion.
Yeah. Or is it moral to force someone to do something against their will? Is that moral? Whatever
I mean, that is a complex
adults.
question, because even in a non-Muslim society, there are situations where someone doesn't have agency anymore. Say they're mentally unwell, for example, and you might have to force them to take a treatment or something of that sort. There are situations where, as a society, we think, yeah, the person's agency no longer exists, or it's superseded by their own best interest. And using that same thinking, if you go back to a Muslim society, their best interest is what Allah says. So if you have to force someone, if you have to kill someone even, it's saving them from hell, or it's because that's what Allah says. So I don't think
according
that...
to what you're saying,
yeah,
all women in the Muslim community are statemented, like those who have a statement they cannot decide for themselves. All of us as women in the Muslim world, we do not have a say in what we're doing. We have to obey. We have to marry who our parents think are best for us. We have to obey our husbands. We have to dress not according to the weather, not according to the activity we're doing, not according to how we feel like at the day, according to what God. We all have been stripped from our. It's like people with mental illness, like how they get forced into the hospital and they cannot sign any papers to do with like selling or buying. We're the same. I mean, we cannot. We in the Quran it says that to women, like if you're writing a contract, you know that of course. If you're writing a contract, you either need is it 2 men or 1 man and 2 women? Is it like that? Because one of them might forget and the other might remind her or something. Like we're dumb. We're dumb, full stop.
Yeah, like a woman can't be a witness to a contract. It has to be 2 women in case one forgets, the other reminds her. As if like our mothers aren't the ones who are running the house and remembering everything all the time. Like, I don't know where they got this idea that women remember less than men. I think it's just the idea that women are inferior, so you need a smart man there to make sure that everything's fine, or 2 women because you can't trust one of them. Yeah.
I went to a museum where they were showing the story of when NASA started sending the rockets to the moon, and how, and they were mentioning all the women who were working as computers and preparing all the maths for the operation, and they were putting pictures of lots of women, and I started crying because I remembered how in the Quran one will forget and the other will remind her. Is this the thing is, if you keep telling somebody you're dumb, eventually they will believe that they're dumb. And that's what was happening every single day with Muslim women. You tell them that you're not complete without a man, and you cannot live without a man, and you're dependent on your father and your brother, and they need to protect you. And we believe that day in, day out.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If all men behave as if women need protection from men, from themselves, then women will need protection from men because men are behaving dangerously. I mean, more often in these communities than in other countries. I can tell you that a woman is safer walking down the street in a lot of places that I've been to that are not religious than places where they are religious and where they believe that men are animals who will pounce as soon as they have a chance. So you should save the woman and hide her, or else it's kind of her fault. She should have known better. It's self-fulfilling.
Yeah.
It happens because we think it'll happen.
When it happens, the shiukh says it's her fault because she wasn't dressed modestly, because we told her to cover up and she didn't. So it's not the man's fault. It's never the man's fault. She invited him. She triggered him. So yeah, it's really bad. The situation is really bad, unfortunately. But
Well,
it
do you
will change.
think,
I have a feeling it's gonna change.
well, that's what I was going to ask you about. So for it to
Yeah.
change, what do you think we could do differently, or what can we do to make it change? And also, does that change involve religion, like reforming religion, or getting rid of religion?
I mean, I might be completely wrong, but with TikTok and the social media and the culture of silliness, it made the religion a bit silly, because you find the hijabi woman full makeup and dancing, and it's becoming more acceptable. I mean, it annoys me because when I was hijabi, I was really hijabi for real. I wouldn't allow myself to wear makeup. But at the same time, it makes me happy because I feel happy for her too, in a way, although she's wearing the hijab, but at least she's trying to enjoy herself. And the religion is getting diluted a bit. It's not big. It's losing its respect in a way. So yeah, let them wear the hijab and dance. And you find them sometimes in really silly, like wearing gym clothes that are so revealing, and hijab as well. That's fine. Let it become silly and let the I'm not tonight. I'm a bit tired. I'm not finding the words in English. Like, let the hebe. How do you say hebe? Like
the aura,
yeah.
the I don't know, like the greatness, I can't find the word either. The reverence around the topic, the holiness, that untouchable
the holiness
quality.
of the hijab. Yeah, the holiness of the hijab is being diluted and watered, and that's good. And the other thing is that now Saudi Arabia is working on that on our behalf, which is good. So eventually they will say hijab is not farud, it's not a must, and you will find the shiukh repeating what Saudi wants to make wants to happen. So slowly it will get better. Even if women don't leave, I'm not asking every woman to leave Islam. Like the previous caller, she said, I cannot identify as an ex-Muslim. That's fine, as long as it's not stopping you from doing whatever you want. You want to stay Muslim, stay Muslim. But don't let that religion make you feel guilty. That's the main thing I feel. You want to stay Muslim and wear the hijab, but go and do whatever you want. You decided to take it off, and lots of people are taking it off, which is really good. Yes, you find famous people being shamed for taking it off, but after a couple of days, people forget about it, and more people take it off, and they're doing whatever they want. That's the main thing.
I hope that things continue trending that way, and that it's not used as some kind of tool for a violent backlash, because I know that this idea has always been in the minds of believers that the day of judgment is coming soon, and you will see it in corruption. There's signs that people's morals are degrading, and everyone has always thought that since Muhammad was around, and they will continue to think that for another, 1,000 years or however long humans exist. But now when they see these signs of it, like they will take this as some kind of unprecedented shift, and it might be an unprecedented shift for Islam, but there's that built-in resistance to that change. So I hope it doesn't, reach a point where it triggers a violent reaction. I hope that it happens gradually enough that people slip out of religion rather than have some kind of holy war against the bad Muslims who don't follow Islam properly. I hope that doesn't happen. Yeah.
I'm so pleased that I managed to speak to you today. It was really nice to be able to chat.
Thank you
I had a lot on mind at one point.
You were
Yeah.
the last caller, and you've waited a long time to join, so thank you for that. And you were saying you had a lot in mind?
Yeah, I had a lot before, but I can't remember now. But yes.
Well, that's okay. I mean, you've told us
Yeah.
plenty of what's on your mind, and I'm sure we'll hear back from you again, and I'm
Yes.
sure we'll be happy to hear your other thoughts next time.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Of course, and I hope you have a great rest of your night, and we'll talk to you soon.
You too. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again, Suzy, for being our last caller today. Simon says, hey, I didn't even, no pun intended, isn't Apostate Aladdin's face mask a type of hijab? He must hide his identity from the mob. Yeah, so some people bring that up almost like unironically. They say, how come you get to wear a mask, but then you would shame a woman for wearing a niqab or something of that sort, which I've never done. But to make it clear, like, we're not saying that women shouldn't wear what they're comfortable wearing. But I'm wearing the mask in this case out of necessity to hide my identity from what I know people will do if they find out my identity. But we have plenty of evidence of women not hiding their hair, and life goes on, and that's the new standard. We shouldn't make women feel naked for not wearing a hijab. And that's what we're saying here. I hope that eventually Muslim women feel comfortable enough to be able to decide, and they don't think that God is going to torture them for not wearing the thing. Because I could tell you, if the stakes weren't that high for me not to wear a mask, I wouldn't be wearing a mask. So for them, the stakes are high. It's society, it is people around them, it is internal shame and guilt. And at the end of the day, it's God saying that if you don't wear the hijab, you're going to end up in hell and all sorts of stuff. And I hope people stop believing that someday. Until that day, I hope that people who do wear it feel some level of comfort, or wear it to whatever degree they want to, like the caller was saying, without the sanctity of the hijab being seen as this thing that stops women from living their life. That's what I hope for. And yeah, I don't think I have any other thoughts today. Not for the entire day, but I mean for the call. And I don't see any comment that I would like to highlight immediately right now. So with that, I suppose we can wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining today. We'll do another one of these live streams for ex-Muslim and Muslim female callers again in a few weeks, but the next one is going to be open for all sorts of callers next Wednesday. So thank you again for joining. And as always, wait a second, I forgot something. Thank you to all my patrons, YouTube members, and everyone who's ever supported me in any way, whether it is financially or through volunteering or through attending and watching my live streams and commenting on my videos or just watching them. I appreciate it a lot, and I just wanted to give them a thank you before I leave. And as always, wait, how do I do this? As always, think critically